Thank you, Caro. Thank you, everyone, for being here today and everyone for tuning in online. My name is Mohamed Morsy, and I am a product manager here at eyeo. And today, I would like to share a story about how the partnership we now have with the Avast Secure browser started, and how we both ended up innovating each other's products through the process. But this won't be a tech talk, and it won't be a product talk either. Maybe somewhere in between. Actually, it's more about the series of fortunate incidents in the form of challenges and changes that happened before the call that led to the collaboration taking place. So basically about that little bit of luck or magic that we sometimes need on our side to be in the right video call at the right time. Now let me start by setting the scene up a little for you. So Avast had quite a successful browser, the Avast Secure browser, and their user numbers were going up fast, very fast. And I apologize for the slide, I know it's confusing, but they had a lot of users. And in fact, in just over 5 years, the Avast Secure browser managed to have well over 20 million active and loyal users, which is really fantastic for a desktop browser these days, right? And I say loyal here because their users were really using the browser and all of its features, or most of its features. So Avast had extensions for ad blocking and anti-tracking, which were being used by 98% of their users. So that's really good penetration, right? But of course, success doesn't come without challenges. And so the first challenge that they had was memory consumption. So it was too high memory consumption. And that was mainly due to the browser having both of these features in dedicated and separate extensions, one for ad blocking and one for anti-tracking. The second challenge they had was the tech stack. Although they were using open source software extensions for these features, they still had a pretty convoluted tech stack that was not very transparent. And this made, for example, troubleshooting issues a lot more difficult because it took time to pinpoint bugs, but it also made lead time for innovation and adding new features to these extensions take much longer. So it was slowing down innovation for them. And then finally, topic of the day, there was still a lot of uncertainty around Manifest v3. Around the impact it would have, around the limitations that would come with it, and if the solution they were using would support it on time. And you have to remember this was a year ago, so things looked a bit different back then, right? So how did things look on the other side of the table? Well, eyeo also had a very successful B2C product, right? We had our web extensions, which some of you might be familiar with, and we also had a lot of users. And sorry again for the same slide, but you pay the royalty fees once, you may as well reuse what you have. But it still wasn't enough users to make the impact that we really wanted to make on the industry. And we needed more users to really reach that critical mass. And so our strategy became distribution. That meant starting to distribute our technology via browser partners. And anyone probably knows to be able to go to market quickly, you do what I just did a few slides ago, you reuse what you have. So we took our proven tech, which was B2C product, we wrapped it up, packaged it nicely in different ways to support desktop and mobile B2B partners in this case. So that was basically white label extensions and mobile SDKs for Chromium and WebView. But of course, this approach also had its challenges. And the first challenge was performance. And so coming from the desktop kind of domain with our extensions, and now being on mobile, this was something new to us at eyeo. So it was very important for mobile browser partners, and it was an issue that was new to us. And obviously, there was room for improvement. You have to deal with a new kind of hardware, different limitations, and so on. And so optimizations were needed. But since the core technology, the filter engine, powering all of the products at the time was common, to be able to get to market quickly, it was hard to make changes that were specific to a certain platform, like mobile, for example, right? So there was very little room for optimization in the setup. And the product synergy, AKA the common core, which helped us get to market quickly, was now actually holding us back. And when there was finally a chance to do something about the performance and optimize something, we didn't have the benchmarking set up to know for sure that whatever optimizations we were doing didn't cause any performance degradation somewhere else. So with all of these challenges at hand, and with Chromium picking up traction both in desktop and mobile, it became clear that it was time for some change. And the first change actually was to take off the wrapping paper and rewrite the Chrome filter engine from scratch, but this time natively for Chromium. That meant doing it in C++, that meant following the Chromium paradigms, and optimizing it just for the Chromium platform. That, of course, required also setting up benchmarking environments to know that we were on the right track. And this is actually a topic that I'm really fond of. I think I had a few conversations earlier about. So if you also struggle with benchmarking or have a great solution for it, please feel free to reach out after this talk, and we can exchange notes. But luckily enough for us, Chromium also brought in some tools that helped us set up our benchmarking setup environment. And now with this new wind of change in the team, we decided to introduce a Slack day, basically, which we called Innovation Day. And this is also another topic that if you have time afterwards to talk about, how do you foster and manage innovation at a small scale within a product team and still remain productive and deliver your commitments? Let's chat afterwards. But anyway, Innovation Day is where the second change idea actually came from. And I actually dug up the pitch slide for this one. So it was kind of a joint idea by Alex, who funnily enough lives in Amsterdam now, and by Maciek, who's with us here today. And the idea basically was to start using the SDK, not just for mobile, but for desktop as well. And the rationale back then was because testing and troubleshooting was a lot easier and faster on desktop, so it made sense. And this is what we did. We started using the SDK for desktop, but initially just as a dev tool. So let's recap. On the Avast side, we have over 20 million users on desktop. They had a few challenges, which high memory consumption, long lead times for troubleshooting and innovation, uncertainty about the impact of Manifest v3. And on the I/O side, we started following a distribution strategy. We had a strong focus on optimizing performance. We were now writing a native Chromium SDK, which was no longer focused on mobile, right? So you can already see the points are already starting to align and match up even before we got on the call. And that's what I mean when I say being in the right video call at the right time. Because a year earlier, we wouldn't have had such a perfect fit. So timing, AKA luck, also played a big part in this story. And now we get to the call, or series of calls to be precise. But instead of just summarizing them for you here on stage, Antoinette, who is the product manager at Avast, and we thought it might be more fun if you actually got a chance to watch the call. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be watching it together. And while you're watching, I'd like you to keep an eye out on one thing. What was the key question, do you think, in your opinion, that paved the road for the collaboration to move forward? So let's play the video. Okay, hi. So we heard you're looking at ad filtering solutions. How can we help?
Yes, we'd like to update our ad filtering extensions that we have in the browser.
Oh, great. Well, we have white labeled extensions that you could just reuse. Would that work?
Do you have a solution for the MV3?
Manifest v3. Well, not yet, but our extension team is working hard on MV3 support for extensions.
Okay. What about the memory consumption? Do you have an idea of how much memory do the I/O extensions use? Because there is a limit on our memory usage on our extension side, and we currently are running 2 of them, and we have an issue around that area.
Yeah, well, I mean, as an extension, we would probably have the same limitations. Why do you need to run two extensions, if I may ask?
Because we have two different cases. The one is the ad blocker that we have and the anti-track. And each of them, they have their own filtering engine that lives within the extension.
Well, we have an SDK for Chromium that we're currently adapting for desktop. So the filter engine would live as a native feature in the browser, and that wouldn't have the memory limitations that normal extensions have. And then we wouldn't also have to worry about MV3 at all, since it's not an extension. The question is, do you need the UI, the user interface, to look like an extension, or do you need the full feature to live in the extension?
Actually, to just look as an UI.
Okay. Then we can integrate the native SDK in the browser and then implement an API, let's say, for the extension UI to control it. How about something like that?
Well, that actually sounds, yes. Will it still need two instances for the SDK, one for each extension, or can we merge?
Actually, no. So since both extensions are using more or less the same functionality, which is a filter engine, it's enough to have a single instance of that native filter engine and then have both of these extensions just make use of it.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that will actually help us a lot with the memory consumption.
Yeah, it would definitely drop memory consumption, I mean, by at least half, but probably more than that, since we're really working on optimizing the SDK.
Okay. What are the next steps? Can we meet with to discuss more about it?
So yes, we did meet up a few more times to discuss more about it, and it was and still is a great partnership and collaboration that we have between both of these product teams. And that's what makes collaborations like this one a real win-win-win solution, as I like to call it, because not only do both product teams and their respective companies get something out of it, but the user wins as well. Because that's the main driver for this collaboration, but also for most of us here in this room, at the end of the day, to give users a better user experience, right? So what did we get out of it? Well, Avast, they got to have a single extension for both features, which is originally what they were after. So now they have the privacy card extension in their latest browser that does both ad blocking and anti-tracking. They have reduced memory consumption now. They have a Manifest v3 safe solution because it's not an extension after all. It's a feature that lives in the browser. They have a leaner and more transparent code base, which makes troubleshooting and innovation easier. On the I/O side, of course, we get to distribute to our technology to more users, helping us kind of on our mission. We are now officially supporting desktop with this native Chromium SDK, which is great for the team as well. We added new SDK features in the SDK, so these extension APIs, for example. And we improved a lot of our other features due to this collaboration. We get feedback continuously from their team, and we help each other improve our products. And most importantly, all of this in a very transparent and pragmatic dialogue between both teams. And that's the real foundation for a good partnership, in my opinion. To be able to get on a call and have both teams agree that not all bugs are critical and not everything is a feature. And so with that, I thank you for your attention and would love to catch up with some of you on some of these topics I touched upon here, especially, like I said, benchmarking. And please reach out to me and I will see you around. Thank you.